Let's dive right into this explainer because today we've got an absolutely fascinating masterclass in digital storytelling. We are going to deconstruct a highly emotional 300-second animation script, literally piece by piece. We're looking at a complete storyboard engineered to generate a cartoon animation of a medical emergency and a miraculous healing. And what we're really exploring here is the architecture of emotion. How do you instruct a digital canvas to make an audience feel suspense, despair, and ultimately profound hope, all in exactly 5 minutes? Plus, it's super interesting to see how an AI interprets a prompt asking for a Pixar-style aesthetic and somehow ends up delivering this striking, highly expressive anime character visual style. So, we're going to break this down into four key areas. Meet the main characters, the medical emergency, a miraculous healing, and finally, the audiovisual atmosphere. Section 1. Meet the main characters. Now, you might be wondering, why do we need such rigid character descriptions? Well, every great narrative, especially an animated one built on complex rendering prompts, requires absolutely strict consistency in its cast. If you're generating a scene sequence by sequence, you literally cannot afford for a character's appearance to just drift around. To lock that in, the prompts mandate exact details. Notice how these specific constraints actually translate into that highly expressive anime visual style we just talked about. We've got Sarah, permanently locked in as a 50-year-old with gray-black hair, wearing a blue hospital gown. Her daughter must always, without fail, have long black hair and a pink sweater, and Jesus is specifically defined by long brown hair, a beard, a white robe, a golden sash, and a glowing aura. By anchoring these exact visual markers, the director makes sure we instantly recognize the players. That way, the emotional weight of the story takes center stage, and we aren't distracted by visual glitches. Section 2. The medical emergency. Okay, so we start out with scene 1, which sets a warm, calm baseline. Caring doctors are standing by, the family is holding hands, and Sarah is breathing weakly. It's sad, but it's peaceful. Then, bam, right at the 40-second mark, scene 2 hits us like a freight train. The prompt actively demands a sudden, dramatic camera zoom and a flatlining monitor. Doctors are suddenly rushing around, frantically attempting emergency treatment, and the daughter starts crying. In a matter of seconds, the narrative pivots from quiet, emotional storytelling to abrupt, sheer panic. It shatters that initial calm and instantly hooks our empathy. And this brilliantly illustrates a perfectly paced tension and release timeline. Just look at how this is mapped out. We have our baseline at 0 seconds. The crisis hits its absolute peak at 40 seconds. Then at 80 seconds, the daughter kneels to pray, and the physical panic kind of gives way to this quiet, desperate hope. By the 120-second mark, the narrative introduces a major visual shift with a golden light. At 180 seconds, the active healing begins. And finally, at 240 seconds, 4 whole minutes into our story, the tension is completely released as Sarah opens her eyes. It's a masterclass in blocking out time. You're giving the audience exactly enough time to feel the despair before you introduce the cure. Section 3. A miraculous healing. As we cross that 2-minute mark, the frantic, dramatic energy of the ER desperately needs to transform. We're shifting from a tone of tense panic straight into an atmosphere of awe. And the source material doesn't just lazily say, a miracle happens. No, it engineers a very specific visual manifestation of hope. Step 1 completely changes the environment. Heavenly particles and a brilliant golden glow filter into the quiet room. Step 2 introduces the character. Jesus slowly appears from the light, smiling lovingly. Step 3 is the actual transfer of action. Golden healing energy flows directly from his hand into Sarah's body. And step 4? That's the concrete result. Her fingers slowly begin moving, and crucially, the hospital monitor turns back on. It's reversing the exact technological symbol of death we saw just moments earlier. By defining these incredibly precise steps, the prompt ensures a smooth, highly cinematic visual flow. Section 4. The audiovisual atmosphere. Now, stunning animation and good pacing are amazing, but they're really only part of the equation. To truly sell this sequence, the script relies heavily on sensory cues. If you read through the source prompts, you're going to see this exact phrase repeated over and over. Emotional, Disney Pixar-style animation, warm cinematic lighting, ultra-detailed, 4K. And here is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Even though the prompt explicitly demands a Disney Pixar style, the rendering engine interprets words like emotional and ultra detailed through that distinct anime character lens we discussed earlier. The AI latches onto those specific constraints to maintain a premium, deeply human texture throughout the whole animation. Plus, the lighting is always boxed in by words like warm and cinematic, which makes sure the AI never accidentally generates a harsh, cold, clinical hospital room. So, the absolutely crucial point here is how the musical cues perfectly mirror the timeline we just explored. The audio is literally holding the audience's hand, dictating exactly how to feel at every milestone. Scenes 1 and 2 use a soft, emotional piano to set that fragile baseline and underscore the sudden crisis. Then in scene 3, right when the daughter starts praying, the music shifts to deep prayer music, building this quiet, introspective tension. As the golden light enters in scenes 4 and 5, boom, we get a cinematic rise and a full heavenly choir, which totally matches the massive visual scale of the miracle. Finally, scenes 6 and 7 resolve the whole thing with an inspirational orchestral ending. Which brings us right to the joyous resolution of scenes 6 and 7. The prompt describes Sarah opening her eyes, the family hugging, and the doctors exchanging amazed looks. That golden, magical, healing energy from before naturally transitions into warm, everyday sunlight filling the room. Jesus smiles, raises his hand in blessing, and slowly walks back into the light. It is just a peaceful, incredibly cinematic ending that brings the characters and us, the viewers, safely back to reality. But of course, it's a reality that is now bright and completely full of life. We've just seen how a series of incredibly strict text prompts, literally dictating the wardrobe, seconds on a clock, camera pans, and musical choices, can engineer an entire emotional journey from grief to miraculous joy. It's a true architectural marvel of storytelling. So I want to leave you with this thought to chew on. How do precise visual, temporal, and audio prompts work together to shape our deepest emotional connections to a digital story? Thanks for exploring this with us.